welcome to another episode of Talent Talks, where we invite people, prominent people from the world of talent acquisition and those who are closely associated with it, working in the industry, to come and talk about their experiences, their learnings, and their observations around the trends in hiring, especially around tech talent. Before I start, let me just give a brief introduction about Newton School. So, Newton School is an online computer science education platform that helps people become amazing software developers and get into some of the best companies of industry without any kind of upfront fees. You can check out more details about Newton School at our website www.newtonschool.co. Today we have with us Samir, who's working with Phillips, and we have with us Ravi, who is working with Cargill. I would love for them to introduce themselves. We can start with Samir. Samir, would you please introduce yourselves to the audience?
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth. It's a privilege to be on this forum, and I appreciate all the great work you're doing. I'm Samir Karai. I manage what we call critical capabilities, which is essentially all the tech and R&D hiring for Phillips. Phillips, most of you may know it as a consumer company, but in the last 10 years, we've almost transformed completely to a health tech company. So in the middle of the COVID crisis, for example, we're the leading providers of ventilators, monitoring and analytics support. We hire a lot of technologists across the world, and I manage that piece for Asia. So that's what I do.
Wonderful. Ravi,
Yeah, hi all. Thanks, firstly, Siddharth, for inviting me to Talent Talks. I'm really happy to be here.
It's our pleasure.
And I always like this concept of finishing school. Actually, I think it is much required, and it's a great thing to reskill or to upskill where you are. And I wish the Newton School all the very best in what you do. So just as a short introduction, well, I've spent over 20 years as a working professional and about 17 years in recruiting, and I'm quite passionate about it. Today, I lead talent acquisition for the centers in India, basically for Cargill, and we're growing at a good pace. And technology, of course, is one of our mainstream functions apart from finance, HR, supply chain and procurement, and so on. And obviously, we are in a digital world today, and technology and automation is the way ahead. So we at CBS, we are close to about 3,000 people right now, and we have a very huge global global IT team. Sorry, that runs across application development, application management, infra, technology, automation, SAP, and so on. So that's a short intro. Yeah, I'm living in Bangalore. I almost came here about 20 years ago and never went back to my hometown. But it's been a great ride, and thank you for having me again on this Talent Talks.
Awesome. It was great to hear you both guys, and thanks a lot for being here and talking to the audience. Like you rightly said, Ravi, technology today plays the central role in everything that we do. And every company today is a tech company. Every company has a technology division. They have a lot of engineers. And I was talking to an economist friend of mine, and what he told me was that in the last 20, 30 years, one of the defining drivers of growth for India has been the IT sector. It has been the pillar of India's development, and even in that, the core that is being formed by junior level hiring, those who are joining in as freshers, then those who go on and take up these are the guys who would later on take up the leadership positions. But the bulwark of this industry is being formed by junior level folks. So as you guys have seen it at Cargill and Phillips, how has the campus hiring over time? So when did you start, your junior level hiring, and when did you start the campus program? Initially, what kind of campuses did you visit? And now, how does it look like over the years? So Ravi, I think you can go ahead first.
Yeah, great. So I think our campus journey started about 2 years ago. Of course, Cargill being global, we do have a global campus program as well, where we take management and tech school grads in our global scholar program, which is again around the world. We pick students and they get to know Cargill, what we do, and they tend to work with our businesses. But apart from that, specifically for Cargill Business Services, I think it's almost been about 2-3 years. Actually, our first campus was about 3 years ago, but that was for the finance stream. Interestingly, we picked up BCom and MCom grads for our finance processes.
Okay.
And 2 years ago was Bombay and IIT Madras actually. And we also did a pooled campus from Mangalore actually across colleges. And we hired close to about, I think, 15-20 people last year. This year we continue that journey. We continue to hire from campuses, and this year our campus portfolio has expanded. We have gone to the NITs, the IITs, the new IITs, and the older IITs where we've built a relationship as well. So this year I think we are going to hit another 15-20 number. Typically these are for data science and application management and digital labs roles that we've got, which is into automation, machine learning, and things like that. Yeah.
Got it. Amazing. Uh, Samir, how are things at Philips? How have things at Philips evolved? Like you rightly said, everyone thought it was mainly consumer appliances company, and of late they have been hiring a lot of software developers as well. So when did it start? How has the campus hiring journey evolved over time?
Well, I can give you a quick context of the history of Philips. So, yeah, I mean, Philips is a 130-year-old company. It's
Wow.
headquartered in Netherlands, and it's pretty much been one of the first few industries or manufacturing companies that came up anywhere. But over time, it's evolved from a lighting company. It started as a lighting along with GE, was part of the audio revolution, right, with all the audio cassette. The audio cassette was an invention that we made, and but few people know that the first X-ray commercial was designed by Philips in 1940. So healthcare has always been there, but it's only last 10 years that as a company we took a call that this is one sector which needs massive digital transformation. This was 10 years ago, and now it's a lot of it is proving right. And therefore, our links with campus and technology goes back to the very history of the company. Today, the CEO of Philips is actually a campus intern. So that's
Okay. Wow.
but in India specifically, like Ravi, we have two different organizations. We have the commercial organization and we have the tech organization. The tech organization makes software across the globe. And for that, I remember way back in '96 when we started, I was actually in college. I'm not from JC myself, and I was part of one of the interviews. I didn't make it obviously at that time, but that shows that the company has been doing a long work. But I mean, nowadays we have a mature program. We hire about 150 to 160 engineers from all the top engineering colleges. It's mostly BTech hiring, complemented with a little bit of MTech and PhD hiring. Yeah. So we do have
Got
a
it.
campus.
Got it. And I'm pretty sure this is a question that a lot of people from, on our chat in our audience would be having is, a lot of people cannot be part of campus because maybe some companies do not come to you, but there is a lot of talent available at junior levels, even coming out of campuses that, let's say, a lot of companies do not visit. So what I've seen is that, a lot of companies have started to have a off-campus program as well, especially for those who are just graduating out of college. So is there some such kind of program in Philips, or is there anything kind of being planned?
Right now, I don't. Part of our campus strategy, and I'm more speaking from a hat where I'm overseeing a lot of things. But we have a COE called Campus Center of Excellence, but I don't see them going off campus at the moment because of the strong ties we have with the existing campuses. But yeah, it's definitely an idea we should explore because I totally agree that there are gems of talent who do not find themselves into the prominent engineering colleges. Shows a lot of business startups come from people who may not be part of the IITs either, right? So
Absolutely.
we are exploring that, but to be honest, as of now, I'm not aware of any structured program around it.
Got it. And is there, Ravi, any kind of such program in Kargil?
Yeah, actually, our campus, we don't have a specific off-campus program, but we do hire actually a lot of engineers, I would say outside the campus ecosystem as well, uh, especially 0 to 1 year. And it all depends on the need of the business. And at that time, last year, So we do use assessments quite a bit. So in terms of coding and things like that. So we do open up the requisition for applicants all over, and they go through a coding program or a test, and then we go through the interview process. But I don't have a specific off campus program, but we do hire a lot of freshers or 0 to 1 year experienced candidates for many of our roles. Actually, last year I remember we took people in security operations. We looked at mobile app dev and some .NET engineers and all that.
Got it.
But it's not very huge in number. They're usually about 10 in number overall.
Got it. Let's come to COVID. I think when COVID hit, everything came to a standstill. All the businesses had to like completely reevaluate the programs. They had to think about how the world is going to reshape. And I'm pretty sure talent acquisition, which actually plans for a lot of months ahead, so would have been particularly hit at that time. So if you go back, would love to know what was your thoughts initially. How did you feel that time? And then how did things, what kind of challenges did you face during COVID, and how did you overcome that challenges during hiring? Ravi, why don't you go ahead first?
Yeah. So COVID, of course, is unprecedented. We never anticipated something like that. A lockdown of 3 4 months continuously would hit. But luckily for us in the team, and as Cargill Business Services was on a growth path, is still on a growth path. Actually, we haven't stopped hiring anywhere. Luckily, and more importantly, we on March, I still remember March 18th, when March 16th, when the lockdown and was announced on a weekend. I had onboarding on March 18th, which was a Monday, and overnight we had to change it to an online call, because I think we didn't want to really break our word for any of the joiners we have had. We wanted to keep that trust. So the talent, that whole weekend, the entire recruitment team and the coordination team really worked to change it to a completely online model. And I'm happy to say that it's been almost a year, getting to a year right now, and we haven't missed even one virtual onboarding or moved anybody's onboarding till date. At a hiring pace at which we are, wherein we've almost onboarded about 300 people in the last 6 7 months, which includes IT and finance and many other functions. Technology has been, on a high for us, and we actually, hiring hasn't stopped. It is only that everything became virtual, which the only difficulty was in the execution of it. Like, previously we used to call over candidates, and in a walk-in, what we need to close now, all walk-in interviews have to happen using a virtual medium, and it takes time, right? Somebody doesn't get connected, somebody has a problem with internet, all those things, right? But I think the team moved well. The team came along very well, especially the coordinators who really put their heart and soul in ensuring meetings happen. The business also understood and gave us a lot of support. So, you know, actually, the pace at which we are right now, I think it's a very exhilarating phase for us as an organization, and for me as a lead, and my entire team, of course. And yeah, COVID, I think what changed is, initially maybe there was some candidates who probably weren't seeing a secure move, right? They wanted to be wherever they are, and suddenly you will find on one side a lot of people, our colleagues in other organizations, or are have lost the opportunity that they have in hand, and they reach out. So suddenly the supply has become 2x and 3x, and managing volume, ensuring we respond to everybody, and it's a very difficult time for everybody. Even as recruiters, even when I get 10 20 emails in a day for asking for to support, it is to ensure that they are given an assurance that yes, we acknowledge your situation, but we, as a TA person, it becomes very important, right? And actually a lot of recruiters actually did get impacted due to COVID, frankly, if I may say that. But yeah, I think the community held on very well. There are people, I see a lot of support from people around for people who have been impacted with COVID, and a lot of help came in from fellow professionals as well. And we did do some drives exclusively for people who've been impacted and things like that. And it's been a journey, but yes, it is something that I wish I would not see again. But at the same time, I think, frankly, for us as an organization, the impact on hiring has not been there. To be more precise to your question, we did go through the normal curve, though it's taken a little longer than usual.
Got it. Got it. And like you said, I think, COVID could have been a very defining moment in our history, where a lot of thousands of people are losing their jobs, a lot of things. Instead, what we saw was that the world came together and the best of people came together, whether it be in terms of, helping each other with food or anything. And one thing that stood out for me was that, I saw that companies, showed a lot of empathy at that time. Like you rightly said, people had very minor issues also. Some of them could not actually had good access to internet. So we had seen Newton School students, those who had to actually give interviews from their rooftops or from going, to cities just to take an interview. And what we saw was that, if there were some kind of issues on the internet, companies were, more than willing to reschedule that. And that was a very good thing. Like the entire community came together to support each other, and that was simply wonderful. So yeah, absolutely there. Samir, what about you? Did it came? I'm pretty sure it must have come out as a very big shock. How will we plan things out? Everything is like haywire. All the plans would have gone, just to
Yes, no,
the.
I completely agree with yourself and what Ravi was saying. It resonates so much similar to what happened. But I think the first thing I noticed was when you mentioned COVID, all three of us were smiling
Yeah,
as opposed to frowning, which would have been 8 months back. That shows how resilient we've been as a nation, as a community, and also certain industries which came to the fore, right? Like Cargill again from the food and commodities procurement, and Phillips. Of course, we were on the front line because we were definitely on the business end. It was a huge spurt in orders, but then we were in a supply chain constraint situation, right? An MRI machine is a $3.5 million machine with about 20,000 components. It comes from everywhere. So even if you have orders and you need those machines in the hospital, and these are manufactured all across the world, how to get the supply chain going, avoid disruption. We actually, in the talent acquisition space, had a lot more work than normal. Fortunately, in that sense, for the recruiters and all that, but it was a big challenge trying to find disruptive talent in a very short span of time. As Ravi would know, the word time to fill suddenly became more and more important, not just from a KPI perspective, but from a actual impact on the world perspective. And I could sense that we actually had a great learning that, you know, the industry is no longer countries, silos. I think I saw in our organization, and as in many organizations, people just break down the silos, come together. We had redeployment drives where people could contribute to functions which were hiring, right? For example, field sales, and if there's no external talent, even recruiters could do field sales given a chance. So we saw all that disruption. We saw disruption in the candidate market, right? Like you said, a role being restricted to a city has gone out of the window now. When we saw that,
absolutely.
a person can be based anywhere with good internet connectivity and as good as being in any city, and roles moving globally into countries like India, wherein certain roles like Ravi mentioned, automation, or let's say hybrid cloud development, or we have mechatronics embedded, so we also make systems, right? So there are certain roles which are held very close to the developed markets, and in this whole disruption, we saw some of those roles come our way as well to this Asia region. So overall, as a region, we may have benefited over the long term than we have suffered. But I feel for the students and campuses, because I know that our intake may have been grown if not for the, because everyone's cautious today and a lean operating model. Whereas earlier, the philosophy of going to campus was to get on some additional headcount as well as a buffer. But I think the lean operating model may have reduced that kind of hiring. So it's a, it's a two-way street, a mixed bag, but I think we'll definitely bounce back in 2021.
Absolutely. And I could definitely sense of pride in your words when you talked about, because you actually had a lot of impact when it came to saving life. The work you were doing daily basis had, life-saving impact. So that's really wonderful and applaud worthy.
Yeah,
When
we
it
were
comes
also
to
fortunate that we were in that space because, yeah, end of the day, we are all businesses. But sometimes you see a reason when the supply peaks and you can't increase your pricing, right? That's when you know that, okay, there is some impact on the market. Well said.
Definitely. Like you rightly mentioned, hiring in general, got disrupted. And one of the biggest would have been campuses because, before this, the trend would have been that you fly down to a campus, organize drives there, you do physical interviews there. And, even the students there are not very much accustomed to, online kind of thing. And that would have suddenly changed overnight. So how did you guys transition campus hiring during the times of COVID? So how did you do virtual campuses? Ravi, please go
Right.
ahead.
Go first. Okay. So yeah, I think by the time we went to campuses, I think more than us, the campuses also were very ready. I think I must appreciate that in terms of the campus plans. I think the student coordinators did a phenomenal job on the campus, and they really got together a very good plan. Generally, but what I really miss this year of is the visit to the campus in itself. There is a whole, the aura of walking through a campus amidst a lot of students.
Absolutely.
Of course, at where I am with, I'm sure with Samir as well, we would have gone back to our Esther years of our own campus life to see how students are grappling around. They're seeing interviews all around. They're wearing suits, and they're all set. And somebody is preparing, somebody is catching a breath. So the magic of campus was definitely a miss this year. But however, I think again it was all done virtually very well. It was planned well in advance. We gave them access to our virtual networks to join the interviewers. It was a stretch, actually, more than maybe on the ground. It is definitely a few hundred hours more, but it was worth that at the end of it. Like I said, the students to enjoy it. Unfortunately, this year, every year we do have campus assessments actually, but this year we couldn't go. We went with the hiring, the CGPA scores and all that. But overall, campus was fantastic. I think I'm like I said, I must also definitely admit that the campuses came up with innovative ideas. The student coordinators did a fab job in making everything very smooth and very pleasant for organizations to come and still pick. Um,
Got it. So do you see campus hiring going back offline again? Do you see yourself flying down in December, the coming month, coming year, and doing it?
I would love to. I wouldn't entertain anything virtual again. Typically, I mean, if it is possible or not, but maybe it will be a hybrid model. Maybe.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think this is set a new norm. Maybe there'll be new technologies wherein there could be telepresence interviews more than these video. We don't know, but yeah, any day I would prefer as a person. If given a personal choice, I would love to go to a campus and meet in person. I think it just gets a different aura altogether.
Definitely. Samir, how has been your experience in the transition phase? So how did you see, hiring transitioning online?
I think overall, like Ravi said, it's totally disruptive. I come from a old school, without giving away my age. I'm not even a millennial. So my idea of digital was the television and maybe the Yahoo chat messenger in our times. But things have changed dramatically, obviously. But the impact was felt positively this time, I think. Of course, our campus lead Tejaswini, travels and does all the things. Had a different kind of challenge, of course. But I think overall, I was amazed by the response of the candidates as well. right? They adapted very readily to all the assessment platforms, video interviews. It's not easy as a student to, you know, do back-to-back video interviews with so many companies and pretend like this is their first interview, right? That's what we used to
Yeah,
do. But what I miss, like Ravi said, was the vibe. For me, I do go to campuses, and at times whenever I get a chance, but the vibe of being there amidst that energy and the palpable energy is so different. So that I think was a miss. But I think there was no choice, right? So I think this year, if things get back to normal, there's no reason we shouldn't go back as a physical presence, because companies like Phillips, for example, has been a brand for a long time, but let's say it's in the background, right? There are new every 10 years there are these disruptive companies that come. That is often top of mind in the minds of the campus. So we, let's say, for the sake of discussion, let's say conventional company uh, would like to be there and present our case in person than be digital if given a chance.
got it. So I see that, it's definitely going back offline as well. Maybe not, maybe a hybrid model, but definitely some way offline would be involved. Got it. Makes
On
sense.
a lighter note, as Ravi would know, the travel budgets get approved
Yeah,
because companies have now seen that things can
yeah,
manage quite
travel.
well.
I know. I hope
I
they
think it's
don't
going
put
to
a
be a
cap.
competitive landscape. If one company starts going, everyone will start going, is what I feel, because no one wants to miss out. And, that reminds me of my campus hiring days. The one of the best things about the offline part was a lot of companies would give us free pizzas to, during when they visited campus. And that was the best part for us. And the other thing that, for a fresher or for a junior level guy, when they join their first job, there's a lot of glamour involved during the onboarding process. There's a lot of fun activities involved during the onboarding process. I remember that was the first time I went, was living in a big city. That was the first time I went to a five-star hotel because my company took me there and saw, oh my God, food could be so expensive also. They took me to a lot of, play games and stuff. And we really bonded well together. So we've made really good friendships, and I'm still good friends with a lot of them, those who joined with me. So campus onboarding and the bonding that take place when they joining, that is one of the most important part for any candidate, as well as it really plays a very big role in them getting associated or joined with the company. And I think that has been the most difficult to transition online. So what did you guys do it to manage it online? What kind of activities did you plan? What kind of things, tasks did you do to take it online, the
Yeah, I
onboarding
think
process?
onboarding process is yet to start. Frankly, they'll all join in June only. But of
Okay.
course, like every other onboarding, we are ensuring that the onboarding experience is great. Obviously, we want the candidates to anybody who joins, and every TA guy will have the same expectation to give them a unique experience, to give them a memorable journey ahead, right? Wishing them the very best for the company that they're joining. But having said that, I mean, we are making some plans as such. After finishing the campuses, we are looking at how we engage them virtually. The biggest thing will be how do we integrate them with the team. Is the biggest challenge that as as managers we face. There are so many people who joined and they haven't even seen our office. They don't even know where maybe the other colleague from another department sits, right? Everything is virtual off late. But frankly, for us it has to be planned, but we want to make it a definitely an amazing experience for the campus joiners who are going to start their career with us. But yeah, we are definitely a few months away to get there.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, I just got reminded of my days. And I think seeing a swanky office was, that was the first time most of us from middle class get to see a good office. And most of the joinees now would be missing that. So Samir, yeah, what has been your experience in the onboarding process? Has there been kind of activities that you guys have planned to, make a very strong bond among the freshers, those who are joining?
Yeah, no, I think great that you mentioned that, because first thing we learned in China as part of my responsibility is that was the first place to get hit. And a lot of our virtual onboarding learnings came from there because they also got back on the feet pretty soon. And what we noticed is the companies which could engage digitally better have a better chance of hiring the top candidates.
Definitely.
So it was more like a fair play opened up. So I wouldn't say, like, to be honest, we are the number one or two names on any campus. We've never been. But once candidates see what they can do, for example, in a contextual intelligence engine on a image guided therapy and where it goes into a hospital, right, in the heart surgery. So then they get excited. So I think for us, it was easy to display such things because people were open to ideas this year. And we took that learning from there to we started this hackathon event, which our campus COE did. And that hackathon had real life business problems that hospitals face. Hospitals have problems all over the place, right? We've all been to
Absolutely.
hospitals. And there's every point of contact you can solve and make it do a better job, including the very layout of hospitals. So I think when kids saw that opportunity, when I say kids, I'm just qualifying that,
Kids. Yeah.
but these are smart kids, and that they saw the opportunity and came with solutions which nobody in healthcare could think of. So it was a two-way street. And then it helped us engage better, sell our end of the day. We are all selling roles, like candidates are selling their profile, and then but that came together pretty well. So I think, like Ravi said, the onboarding has to be seen on how we can do it. Probably, hopefully, we can do it in person because we have a nice campus and we would like students to feel that vibe and energy. But if not, we have also done a lot of virtual onboardings for laterals, including group onboardings, where in mass you can have like tools like Zoom. But the key, I think, is to constantly engage if it's digital. Whereas in a personal meeting, you have one good contact and that sticks. But in a digital engagement, I think every 15 days I would advise somebody from the business or from HR to connect with those students to allay the nerves, and make sure that they are already involved in things before they come on board. So that's my only suggestion.
Got it. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah,
Guys,
just
we
to add
are,
to,
yeah,
sorry, I just want to make, just to add to the pre-engagement right now, I think where we are heading to even in a virtual world is our managers are connecting with the prospective campus joiners and giving them assignments and giving them the know-hows of maybe like how Samir is looking at campus and all that. I mean, sorry, at hackathons and all that. For us, it is direct some on-job assignments where they can complete or they can reskill, upskill on some of the technologies that we're using, and they're using this time to interact. So we have a set plan put in place in terms of reaching out to whomever is going to join us, and each of the hiring manager is working with them to see that they're all set by the time they join in terms of the tech and the skill requirements. Essentially, I think this time it is great that the people who are joining organization use it to sharpen their skills, to redo something that maybe they can even upskill themselves, look at the latest technologies and know more about the business itself. So we are creating those opportunities at this point of time before we get to the actual onboarding phase.
got it. Wonderful. Um, we have a little time left on our hand, but there are a couple of questions in the chat. I would just take up one of them. So, Avinash is asking, how will edutech platforms aid with hiring? Will they also be treated as a campus to hire from? Do you see that act as a change in the way companies hire? So I think the references to edutech platforms like Newton School and a lot of online coding bootcamps that are doing training online as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll take that some Samir first before you go.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So actually, from a talent acquisition perspective or from a hiring perspective, it is the skill that matters at the end of the day. Frankly, though we go to campuses, the reason why we go to campuses is because we believe that there's a set standard of some talent that is available for us to really attract or absorb. But with this disruption of the finishing schools or training academies, we are open to, actually we do a lot of, like I said, in our off campus program that we do apart from the regular campus, there is a lot of new age organizations we actually welcome to work with us. We actually look at talent pools and we are happy to hire. All we want is a certain degree of quality, certain degree of skill, and so on. So it is definitely, we are at the, maybe at the beginning of a much bigger journey overall, wherein some edutech organizations and some things, it will be like the phase of LinkedIn, what it was 10 years ago to what it is today, right? So they are definitely disrupting, and companies, I'm sure, are very seriously looking at that pool. It could be, let's say, in terms of diversity also, the returning mothers or women who want to restart their career by upskilling a particular program, they would have a great opportunity. Similarly, youngsters who probably didn't didn't know that tech was their mojo and lately got into it, for them there could be opportunities. And anybody whom they think that they can upskill, and at sometimes at a college level, coding may not be your forte, but after you do a 1 2 year corporate stint, suddenly it can become your forte, right? So things like that, we as an organization, I think any organization and any TA person will always welcome bright talent. It is only the skill, and maybe at an organization level, what we look at is how are their presentation skills, how do they deal with the situation, basically how are they doing as a team player, how will they manage maybe an escalation that comes on the floor, things like that. There are also softer aspects which we measure on. It is not just skill alone, but skill does count when it comes to hiring, and we are very, very enthusiastic and open about it.
Absolutely, Ravi, and that was a fantastic answer. Thank you so much. Samir, do you have anything to add here?
No, totally agree. And with what Ravi said, just want to add also that, for a message to students, especially in platforms like yours, it's really a wonderful platform. I think it addresses a gap between education institutions and corporates, and then the whole talent that gets left out of that pool, right? The reason that companies like ours, while we are not like really the big name in campus, is that we still get thousands and thousands of applications. And I'm sure that's the case with Ravi. So the reason that companies go to select campuses or hire from select channels is to minimize that, the huge application to selection ratio. Unfortunately, that's the fact that we live with, but that's also the advantage that we have. That bigger brands attract a lot of applicants. But I think the platforms like yours can help to kind of make that pool a little congruent. So if you're not in any of the IITs or NITs, don't worry. If you do very well in a Newton school, yes, probably tomorrow that may be as good or as bad as the in the IIT. So the other thing I wanted to also suggest is don't look at campus or any online platform as a means to get a job, because today, when I look at the times that I come from, getting a job was the reason of existence of any graduate, especially engineers. But today, you have so much more to do. So if you pick up on
Absolutely.
skills, like Ravi said, skills are in demand, no longer profiles, JDs, experience levels. So I won't restrict this only to campus discussion, but the gig economy, which is going to pick up big time, the freelance economy. Today you can be in India but work on projects globally if you bid on platforms like Twago and others. There are job parcels being created and sent out online. Here's a job parcel, can you do it? And you bid for that at the right price. So I think we need to, as a workforce, start thinking differently, and then the real potential of our country will come out. But yeah,
Absolutely.
to answer your question, definitely, I mean, a platform like this would be of great interest.
Absolutely, makes sense, guys. Before we end this wonderful session, you guys have a collective experience of like multiple decades across you, and you would have seen like hundreds and thousands of people performing in their jobs. One advice would you give to a fresher who is graduating out of college to have, so that they have a great career ahead of them? Ravi,
On
I
a
think.
lighter note, stop taking advice from people with decades of experience. No, just a joke there. But I think today the opportunities that, and I know my father used to tell me that in my time as well. But genuinely today, the opportunity is to not get into jobs, but work on skills and invent stuff that's not being thought of.
Absolutely.
Right? Every time you think an idea is done, there's somebody new who comes up, like Tesla. So I think the freshers should come in with an entrepreneurial mindset. Not everyone can be entrepreneurs, but when you come into companies, come in as if it's your own company and work for it like it's your own company, and wonders will happen. So my only message is to start becoming an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur very early on in your engineering days or your, any other qualification that you have, so that you display those traits when you actually come to the workplace.
That's actually a wonderful advice, and it actually really, gladdens my heart when I today see that people immediately out of colleges, are actually becoming entrepreneurs. But the message, the essence of your message, and this is something very important, is that, it's not necessary to be an entrepreneur, to start a company to be an entrepreneur. You need to have that spirit, and wherever you are going, whether you're working for a company or starting your own, you need to have that spirit in you of that innovation, of ownership, so that's a wonderful message, and I hope everyone watching this takes this home. We would love to, take your advice to the freshers out there.
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy. I think the first thing, especially when I see youngsters today, I think with the kind of disrupting technology and all that, suppose like I recently did a pilot. We are doing a pilot for a asynchronous video interviewing platform, wherein we get videos from candidates who want to apply for a job, and there's a set of questions that will come to you and you have to answer them basically. uh, Once I started looking at those videos, I realized that even this requires a prep now. To speak about yourself in 1 minute is going to be an art, where you'll have to sell among maybe 50 other people who will do the video interview, right? So, and for a recruiter at large, where he has to see maybe 50, 60, or even 100 candidates, he's going to go by that 1 minute. So when you get an interview opportunity, when you first even get a call for an interview, it is good to spend time, ask the person who has called you some very right questions in understanding the organization, understanding the role. Prep yourself for the interview. A simple question like, tell me about yourself, also need to be prepped. Presentation is equally important. While you may be an excellent coder, at the end of the day, if you're not able to explain the problem to a layman of what your what you have done in that, it becomes very tricky. You could code, but after a certain point of time, you'll find it very challenging to outgrow, because you know uh, as we aspire to, we all of us want to outgrow into bigger roles, greater positions, and all that. So prepping for an interview, prepping for the opportunity that you have on hand is extremely important, and it requires practice. Maybe you should write down some important points that you'd like to share, which you should never miss, right? So until you write in practice, at that time when the interview is going on, you won't be thinking. You can be as confident because you have practiced. I think that is a major thing which I see these days is will get much more important as we go by, because it's nobody even on a resume, right? What you write, I see that many people, especially freshers, when we get resumes, everybody has the same objective, same same format, and typically actually nobody even bothers to see if why do you even write objective, right? Why do you even write it? If for the
Absolutely.
first example, just because maybe 20 years back somebody wrote it, it all started with that, right? But if you should really mean everything that you write on your CV to be you. If you write reading books, please ensure that you really read books. Don't write just because it's good to have, right? Or maybe you're aspiring to do, right? So it's like that. So your resume is absolutely you that is going to somebody to read. So make it lucrative, make it interesting for somebody to read. And as a fresher, I will recommend, at any level, I don't think it should never go beyond a page or two. That will be my other advice. The recruiters, recruiters today, for example, in Cargill, we have 300 applicants that come for every role on an average. So imagine a recruiter, how much time will it take to, screen a resume, right? It takes 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes to understand quickly what the person is doing. So it's that much of time that you have to impress somebody to have an eye on you. That's all you require. And after that, it's the interview thing, right? It's so these are some of the, I would say, a basic, but I think it is very much required for an aspirant who's applying for any role at any level. I think that's where we see a lot of gap, right? And
Definitely,
what you
definitely,
write in terms of your project, the way you explain it, the way you actually present it is will be very important. So that's my
definitely.
advice, is to really believe in, have confidence on your skill, on your ability, and practice to present very well. Today, that is very important.
Absolutely. And, if I were to just summarize it for those who are watching, work on your presentation skills. There's a lot of competition in the world. You should know how to sell yourselves. Second is be genuine, do actually some good stuff in life and, bring it about in your resume. So those are the key takeaway from Ravi's message. And I think that's a wonderful advice. And thank you so much, guys, for, your time. And this was a wonderful session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
Thank you for having us.
invite. Yeah,
Enjoyable from our side as well. Thank you.
Thank you,
absolutely. Thank
guys.
you, Samir. Thank you all. Have a nice
Bye
day
now.
ahead. Bye.
Bye all. Bye Ravi.
Bye. Bye. See you,
Bye
Samir.
Siddharth.